Right. Or you do like the programming language paradigm, which is that you might not have a domain specific language just for your housing association, but there is a Python equivalent which has some language features that make it readable and easy to understand, and you can borrow someone else's housing code association contract and just
but literally the code should be readable. I mean, that's why literate languages and DSLs are so important in this context, because we're not talking of just about shoving pixels on the screen. We're talking about political power, and therefore what will happen is if you use a traditional paradigm of smart contracts or computer languages, we're replacing lawyers just with coders, and there's a new priesthood of powerful people who will reveal or not what's in their interest to the public at cost. Well, if it is a generally rich, functional, open source legal language, and in French and German and all the, that's what we're looking for here.
So you're thinking of a language more like English rather than, or like a language
French or German. It's literally
not a programming language.
Yeah, and you could call it pigeon law or something like that if you want. I called it liquid. Okay, so I mean, I can tell you the history of this idea, but it basically it's happening already, and there's several projects on it, and I've been working on it since 2003, and it will definitely it will. So one way of describing Ethereum is like you know the story of Napster and what Napster did to the music industry. So it's Napster for law. Okay. Right, or I called it Ebola for accountancy. So it basically can have as dramatic an effect on these sorts of institutions, law and accountancy, as Napster and file sharing did for the music industry.
Yeah, it's just, I think the tricky part is that because those industries seem so entrenched and have been around for so, like, we imagine the legal infrastructure that we had has been around almost longer than nation states. I think like this idea of a judiciary and this idea of resolving conflicts between like citizens or people in a society. Yeah.
There was a time before computers. There was a time before democracy. I mean, we're just at that point now, and it's absolutely obvious we are.
Because the concept of a strong justice system is, precedes the necessity for a nation state or any of this kind of thing. Like even in the US, they were very concerned with the legal infrastructure almost long before they decided to
And that thinking's so important. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, design thinking, legal thinking, philosophy, ethics, documentary, all that stuff. But now we have a language in which we can far more flexibly and at lower cost craft more beautiful social arrangements. That's what's different. Before we had to do these very expensive bureaucracies and go to the library, there's hundreds of tomes, and then you have to have people who study it for like 50 years and a whole profession builds up around that, hugely expensive. And that exactly the same that happened with the internet in terms of getting information and books off a library shelf. We're now in, let's say, the very beginnings of an equivalent revolution in power.
Okay. Well, let's watch this space, I think, and see what happens. I mean, it sounds very exciting, because I think one thing that I felt is being back in England.
I'd also be scared.
Yes.
Excited and scared.
If you're concerned that the Western world is kind of stagnating or something, that like sometimes people feel like this, that all the development has kind of been done and we have our infrastructure, and our challenge now is not necessarily building more bridges, but making sure the ones that we have don't collapse, things like this, then I feel like this idea is quite revolutionary in many ways.
Well, if you want to stop something collapsing, then just use the language to make stuff stronger. I mean, you don't have to. It's a language of power. So if you want to create more robust military organizations, more robust police, more secure financial markets, if you want to just entrench the status quo, you've got a powerful language to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a tool in the end, right? But the interesting thing is it's an open source tool that now we can start using.
Does all of this stuff need buy-in from lawyers and from people that currently have power?
Yes and no. In other words, you can do quite a lot, as Bitcoin and so forth have shown, by creating kind of off-grid structures. If you've got a lot of people using the stuff, that's de facto power, right? But the fact is lawyers and banks and businesses and governments are taking this very seriously, and it has huge potential for both cost savings and addressing. So it doesn't need to be either or. You can create smart contracts which are also readable and in law and human readable, and do the same that Creative Commons did for their licenses, make them machine readable, human readable, and legally readable, if you like.
Cool.
And so there's no reason why, and it's essential that we do that for the future of power on this planet.
Okay, it's very exciting. Okay.